So as we reach the occipital bone, we place the head in an upright position. And I also just want to point out that from our diagonal up partings, we can gradually just curve this to follow the parietal ridge. So you're always using your reference points. Our convex blunt haircut is coming along nicely. And now we just have the back and the sides to do. When you get to this point, sometimes it's a nice idea just to combine your two sections on the side. So now you can see I have one section, and this is just another option of cutting, and it can be used in both of the previous blunt haircuts that we did. When you're cutting the concave and the straight or the convex, once you reach that certain section of the head, see where this, when we place our comb here, this is flat. Again, this is the flat of the head. So when you're in that region of the head, you can now just continue your parting and take one section. So for this convex blunt haircut, we're going to do it that way just to give you another option. So we've already got our back cut, and we can see our nice gradual curve starting to happen. The client's head position at this point, always make sure you give it a double check, use your mirror and have a look. And now we're going to stand out from the ear. Our body position is going to be out from the ear, and we're going to direct this hair towards the chin. So use her chin as a guide. So your knuckle should actually line up with the center of her chin, and your fingers still have a shift. We're still holding at 0 degrees, and as in the other haircuts, we now need to release the tension by the ear. So we can divide this into two if you need, just to have it a little easier to control. You can clearly see your guide from the back. We're cutting below our fingers. Our body position is straight out from her ear. Her head position is upright, 0 degrees elevation, and a slight finger shift to decrease length as we move to the front. So remember, good scissor control, cutting below your fingers. Then we can add our next piece. Now our knuckle lines up with her chin, and we maintain that 0 degrees elevation, and we see that gradual convex. Shorter in the front, gradually longer in the back. Opposite of concave. Then we just keep going. You can target part to the top of the receding, and again use those reference points just like we did in the other haircuts. If you remember, when we did our front section, we divided that into 3. And again, this is all part of the cutting system to help you maintain accuracy and speed. A little bit of moisture, because we always want to maintain the same dampness throughout our cut. Find the 3-point. Comb right from the root area, 0 degree elevation. Elevate that hair past the 3-point. See our guide. Maintain that 0. And we cut. Now when we get here, release the tension. And sometimes you'll notice that I may not release the tension all the time with my scissors. Sometimes I just let that hair relax, and I can feel if it's relaxed enough. It's a good idea when you're first starting out to always release your tension using the back of your comb or using your shears. But once you become more familiar with the hair, you will notice that you can feel it relax, and that feeling allows you to know that that is released and you're not going to get that short piece in here. I'm going to comb this down towards the chin. Remember, knuckle lines up with the chin. Make sure you can see your guide. There it is. Finger shift slightly, 0 degrees elevation, and we continue. And there we have our convex coming along nicely. We can let our last section down. Same thing. Take the back first. Remember, stand out from your 3-point when you're cutting the back. 0 degree elevation, follow your guide. And now you don't have to move the hair forward as much because you can see your guide under there, and as long as you're following that curved guideline, you'll be okay. The important thing is you can see that curved guideline. I can shift my fingers still, but I don't really need to. And the reason I don't need to is because I can see my guide underneath. And then always just check that line. See, there's one little long hair. So just check your perimeter. It's a good habit to get into with the blunt haircuts, because then no matter what haircut you do, you're always going to be checking your perimeter. And there you have a nice convex line. Longer in the back, gradually shorter in the front. And how we achieve that is by directing this hair towards the 3-point and then towards our chin. Once we've achieved our guideline, just a matter of combing that hair and following that guideline. We repeat the same thing on the other side. So here, remember, we have 2 sections. This is where we can take these and make it into one. So here's our back section. Bring that right along. And you should be around the top near the eyebrow. Comb that hair up and out of your way. Add a little bit of moisture because we want to maintain the same dampness. We need to see if we have anything to trim in the back. I do have a little piece there. Other than that, for this first section, I don't have anything to trim in the back. I'm going to comb that hair. We can divide this if you want, or if your fingers are long enough, you can do this in one go. We do need to have some of the back as our guide, and we're going to bring this forward, and now your fingertips are going to point to her chin. Be even with her chin. Remember that you have your guide in the front here that you can use to help you as well. So if you wanted, you could pick up a piece of that and hang on to it as you cut. So you have a piece in the back and you have a piece in the front. Then you can take your next section and this should be near the top of the receding area. Comb this hair up and away. Oops. Make sure you have good scissor control and you're palming your shears well all the time. That's something you should practice before you start cutting. We can clearly see our guide underneath there, so it's just a matter of following that guide now. Remember, stand out from your 3-point. As you cut the back, 0 degrees elevation, her head is now in a natural fall position. Your fingers maintain that slight shift to follow your cutting line. When we get near the ear, remember to release your tension, and you can use your shears or the back of your comb to do that. You can also continue to shift forward and you'll still see your guide, but you don't have to if you can clearly see your guide. It's just a matter of following the cutting line under there. And we keep going. And we let our last section down. Again, add a little moisture. So when we did our first 2 haircuts, we always remained in the 4 sections. But now that you're on your 3rd haircut, sometimes it's nice to challenge you and have you work with just one side section, like we did on the Convex blunt haircut. Sometimes it's nice also to challenge you and have you learn to release this tension by just letting it fall naturally, as opposed to releasing your tension with your shears. So you can see this time I have done things a little bit differently, and that is to allow you to grow and develop as a hairstylist. But our end results are still the same, and our key points are still the same. We still have 4 sections to start with. We still have a finger shift to decrease length in the front. We still have to be aware of her head position and our body position. So those key points you're going to use throughout your entire hairstyling career. It doesn't matter what type of cut you're doing, what type of hair you're cutting. There are some things that you're going to carry with you and use throughout your career. And our last, there we see our guide, we can cut. And you'll also notice that with this haircut, I didn't check as often as with the other haircuts. I encourage you to check all the time, but eventually you do get to a point where you feel more comfortable. But don't take risks until you're ready to take risks. Okay, so there we have our convex haircut. So remember, the game plan is available under handouts. And just with all our other haircuts, I like to comb back from the apex just to check to make sure my perimeter is clean. Always have a look at your perimeter. We used a stationary guideline. We use diagonal up partings until we reach the occipital bone, and once we got between the occipital bone and parietal ridge, we started following the shape of the head, following the parietal ridge to take those partings. So sectioning 4, diagonal up partings, 0 degree elevation, stationary guideline. Our body position was out from the 3-point at the back and out from the ear at the front. Her head position was down until we reached the occipital bone, and then it was in a natural fall position, just like all the other cuts, blunt cuts that we did. We did have a slight finger shift to decrease length in the front. We used reference points like the apex as we sectioned the 6-point parting. We used the high side receding area. We used facial features, her chin, to guide us as to where our hand should be positioned. We used our 3-point reference points. All of these are very important when you're cutting and later on when you're styling. So keep all the key points in mind. The blow dry handout will be available on our website as well. All of this is cutting hair. All the cuts are under block C, which matches the red seal. Block C is cutting hair or hair cutting. And the blow dry styles will all be in block D. And the patterns are there so you can follow along and complete a nice blow dry on this. So that is the blunt convex haircut.